say you wanna watch a drama. You say you wanna watch a comedy. Well, you can watch it with your mama, or you can watch it with your daddy.
You'll even sit and watch it with your middle schooler, so you can come and talk around a water cooler. We're watching all day and all night.
Couch potatoes unite.
Whoa, whoa.
Couch potatoes unite.
Whoa, whoa. Couch potatoes unite.
Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of the podcast entitled Couch Potatoes Unite! Which is based on a blog of the same name because this podcast is like small town life. Hashtag small town life. There are only so many names to go around and we think ours goes around just fine. I'm the blogger in question and the self-styled Chief Couch Potato. My name is Kylie and I love TV. If you feel the same, keep listening and or checking out our website, couchpotatoesunite.wordpress.com, as you're bound to find some common ground or something you like. For Couch Potatoes Unite, we're all about the wonders and the unique long-form storytelling of the small screen. CPU! Hopes you've been following releases of brand new episodes of the podcast on Wednesdays, as well as new blog entries on some Tuesdays, and as always we have several more new episodes on the way. Because the panelists and I live lives behind our podcast, the episodes are published once per week. Subscribe to the blog or the podcast via iTunes, Stitcher Radio, and via Google Play to stay on top of brand new episodes. Episodes already published discuss a variety of shows around the water cooler, including but not limited to The Crown, Once Upon a Time, A Series of Unfortunate Events, Fuller House, Westworld, American Horror Story, The Good Place, Grace and Frankie, Supernatural, Arrested Development, and Jane the Virgin. Plus, new episodes are in the works, including revisits for Gotham, Game of Thrones, Stranger Things, iZombie, Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., 13 Reasons Why. We'll be launching new panels covering The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, Mr. Robot, Charmed, Outlander, and the Breaking Bad universe. And because we look back at shows now past, we'll take a smallish look back at a short-term show from some kind of yesteryear called Freaks and Geeks. We'll put out some musical stops for our crazy ex-girlfriend, and we'll revisit one of the all-time and most-watched classic sitcoms, MASH. By the way, did you know that CPU also from time to time goes live? We've been live from bunkers and comedy shows and Comic-Cons, and we just went live from Blue Bridge Games to take a shiny look back at Firefly. Plus, we're planning more live appearances and other cool stuff, so make sure you like or follow us at our Facebook page, our Twitter at CPU Podcast, our Instagram at Couch Potatoes Unite, or subscribe to the blog, our YouTube channel, our iTunes channel, our Stitcher Radio channel, or find us on Google Play. In the meantime, if you don't hear a show in this podcast format, fellow panelists and I still write reviews, and we always seek new panelists, so if you have any interest in joining the discussion, say hello by finding us at any of those outlets I've mentioned. At the very least, stop by and leave us a thumbs up, comment, or review. We like feedback with the least amount of murder you can manage. Murder is bad, you see. Today we're around the water cooler and taking a first look at a CW dark teen drama called Riverdale. This episode constitutes the first of a multi-part catch-up miniseries in which CPU will look at each past season of Riverdale before continuing the panel as one of our typical water cooler features. And we have some surprises in store as we go. As we start this new ongoing panel, and if you're not already aware, you should know that from time to time your chief couch potato and main moderator, that's me, needs a break. Particularly when I think others are more passionate about the show we're discussing in the moment. Case in point, today's episode, which I'm not here to moderate, rather frequent panelist Sarah returns to the moderating microphone for this series. She's appeared on numerous panels, including our Star Trek 50 Plus series, our Arrested Development panel, our Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt panel, and others too many to list, and she co-moderates our American Horror Story panel. In this episode, Sarah is joined by two of our occasional to frequent panelists, three brand new panelists, and me, kicking back as a panelist myself. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome back Sarah to the moderating microphone. Take it away, Sarah.
Thanks, Kylie. It's great to be here. So today we're talking about Riverdale. Riverdale is based loosely on the Archie comics and the general universe, which includes appearances in MGM magazine as early as 1941, Archie comics, several animated series, the Sabrina the Teenage Witch characters, and the most recent iteration of Riverdale. Riverdale began airing on the CW in January 2017 and showed us our beloved Archie characters with a dark twist. Season 1 centered on the death of character Jason Blossom, the arrival of Veronica Lodge in Riverdale after the abrupt imprisonment of her father, Hiram Lodge, Archie struggling with his feelings about his music and his feelings for his music teacher, Miss Grundy, who seems to have a secret dark past of her own, Betty dealing with the mysterious commitment of her sister to an institution, and Jughead as the brooding narrator from the other side of the tracks. We also see the local gang, the Serpents, the intriguing world of the Blossom family's maple syrup conglomerate, and the relationships between Hermione Lodge and Fred Andrews. We have a lot to talk about, so let's get to it. How are you guys doing today? You ready?
We're awesome.
Let's do it. Let's jump in.
Absolutely.
So, you first will be asked to identify yourself by your first name only, state how you came to watch Riverdale, and how you found the podcast Couch Potatoes Unite.
Exclamation point.
Exclamation point. And then you will be asked to rank yourself as one of the following characters from Riverdale. This is our classic CPU character question. It comes on every podcast. So, here are your choices. You love this show because of the great depiction of small-town living, both the good and the bad. Since, after all, you are a small-town girl or guy at heart, like Betty Cooper. You think this show is a breath of fresh air, a refreshing change from most of the emotionally turbulent things you've been exposed to, like Veronica Lodge. You like this show, but have a somewhat complex relationship with it, similar to your secret relationship with your hottie music teacher, like Archie Andrews. This show sucks. Everyone thinks it's so great, but you see it for the gritting, disturbing portrayal it really is, like Jughead Jones. It's fine. Everything is fine. The show is fine. You are the shining example of perfection, and not even a disturbing death and gruesome mystery are going to bring you down, like Cheryl Blossom. Look, you sort of like this show, but it's not really on your radar. You are coexisting with it because you must, but it's really just a means to an end for you as you become a musical superstar like Josie and her Pussycats. You didn't even watch this show as you were in prison and have bigger problems such as Hiram Lodge and, spoiler, F.P. Jones. Who wants to go first?
Hi, I'm Emily.
Hi, Emily.
Hi, Emily.
I started watching Riverdale when it first was put on Netflix, like, a while ago. I watched the first season and the start of the second season, and then didn't go back and keep watching it because other things came on and came up. But now I'm back. Here we are. I found Couch Potatoes a long time ago. I've been a panelist since Once Upon a Time, and now I do this one, and Once Upon a Time, which just ended, and Jane the Virgin, and looking back on Glee, and American Horror Story.
13 Reasons.
Oh yeah, and 13
You want to forget
Reasons.
that one, don't you?
Yes. Don't we all?
Aww.
I would say I'm kind of a bit of Archie because I like the show, but I'm not sure how in love with it I am. I think it's really good. I don't really have any explicit qualms with it. I don't know. I feel like Archie's a good way to kind of sum all of that up, but I also kind of like the little bit of Jughead that's like, you see it's gritty and disturbing and everything, and I think it's true. I like that part though, so yeah, that's me.
Thanks, Emily.
Welcome back, Emily.
I'm Micah.
Hi, Micah.
Hi, Micah.
I started... Hello. I originally started watching Riverdale because one of my friends had lied to me and told me that it was about the Archie Comics characters realizing that they were in a story, and I was like, oh, that sounds cool. So I started watching it, and yeah, no meta, only murder, but it was still good enough to draw me in. So I've been watching, I think, as soon as the episodes hit Netflix. I was watching it then, and I followed it on the CW app for a little while. But I am a little bit behind now, but not enough behind to not be able to participate in this podcast. I don't know specifically when I found out about Couch Potatoes. Me and Kylie have been friends for a while, so I've seen her posting about that. And eventually she saw me posting some very angry statuses about writing decisions on Once Upon a Time, and she brought me into the fold based on that. And as far as my character for this one, I'm going to say Archie, specifically for the whole secret relationship thing, because as I have learned in wanting to share my interest with the show, there are many people who very much do not like the show. And so I kind of keep this show as just a personal show that I like, and with obviously you, a group of like-minded individuals.
Welcome back, Micah. Micah also,
Good to be back.
in addition to Once Upon a Time, appears on our Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. panel.
I'm Jessica. I am a die-hard Riverdale fan. I watched it as soon as it aired on the CW. If I didn't have cable, I watched it on the app the next day because I loved the comics growing up, so it was really nice to see the difference from the comics to this. I found out about Couch Potatoes Unite through being Micah's ride to the Once panels, and I sat very quietly every time and enjoyed every moment. So I'm really excited to finally be a part of a panel, to like get to say things and not just be like, yeah, but quietly on the inside. I am a mix of the characters. I really am kind of fitting in with the Betty and the Veronica in all of this, as I am a small town girl, and it's true, gossip flies super fast in a small town, so I'm like, yep, I'm a Betty. And I like the freshness that it brings, like, even though it is like a dark show, so I would technically fall into Jughead with that, but it brings something new to like the teeny bopper TV show genre.
All right.
Awesome.
Welcome to Couch Potatoes Unite, live and on the mic, Jessica.
Yeah, you get to talk
Thank
this
you.
time.
Hi, my name's Gabby.
Hi, Gabby.
Hi, Gabby.
I started watching Riverdale when it came on Netflix. I think because my best friend told me to watch it. Because she's like, oh, you really like this. I was skeptical at first, but I really like it now. I found out about Couch Potatoes Unite because Sarah lives in my hometown.
Oh, I teach in her hometown, so I know your family.
And I think I'm a mix of both Betty, because I love this show, but I have to also side with Archie because I have a weird relationship with it. I like it, but there's some kind of like toughness to like about it.
Yeah, I see it.
Fair enough. Welcome to the
Thanks.
podcast, Gabby.
Thank you.
It's your very first time. You weren't on other panels secretly not talking like Jessica.
Hi, I'm Nate.
Hi, Nate.
I started watching the show after I started reading the comic book series. That's almost parallel. It's not a direct copy of the show, but it gave the darker side of Riverdale, basically. So I started watching it, and I binged watched I watched the whole series, like, as soon as season 3 came out. I watched it in like a week. I am a huge Ultra fan. I even have a Jughead beanie, which I thought about wearing on the show today, but I didn't want to be that extra.
You can be as extra as you want here. We're okay.
But yeah, if I were to choose, I think I would be a little bit Betty and a little bit Cheryl, honestly. Everything, because when I tell people about this show, and they're just like, well, that sounds pretty dark. I'm like, no, it's fine. It's good. Yeah. So,
All right.
but yes.
And Nate, how did you find the Couch Potatoes Unite in general?
I do believe Nick, who I am in a cast with,
Are you talking
shared.
about the Nick that's married to me?
Yes.
That'll be him.
Who is one of our frequent panelists, so the listeners will know him.
Yeah, they know him.
Yeah, he had shared the open call, and I was like, hey, I'm obsessed with this show, and there we go.
All right.
Awesome.
Well, welcome to the podcast, Nate. This is also your first time on the podcast.
It is.
Woo! All right, and of course, my name is Kylie, because you get to go last.
Yes,
I know.
it's fancy.
It's a privilege. So, my name is Kylie. I'm participating and not moderating today. And I came to watch Riverdale because if you know me, or you follow the blog, or you follow the podcast, or you just talk to me about TV in general, you know I'm hyper obsessed, and I look to see what's coming out in the fall or in the coming year. And I knew Riverdale was coming out. I knew it was a dark retelling of the Archie comics based on everything I've seen. I saw a trailer for it, and I thought, well, that's intriguing. I'm going to pop that one on the list. And then I started watching it more in earnest when I realized there were people out there who wanted to talk about it. Amazing. And so I watched the show. How did I find Couch Potatoes Unite? Well, I started the podcast and am the producer. Hi! And then if I was to rank myself among the character question, I think I would be Archie. I like the show. I do have a complex relationship with it. The reason why Sarah's moderating it is because I think she likes it more than I do. But I do like it, and I'm looking forward to talking about it.
Good to have you here, Kylie.
It's great to be here, Sarah.
Well, I am Sarah.
Hi, Sarah.
Hi. I started watching Riverdale because my good friend from college, Sarah Habel, plays Miss Grundy, and she had said, oh, I'm going to be on this. And I was like, well, I will watch that then. And I always enjoy watching her and stuff. Although it's weird when somebody that you know is like on TV. I don't know.
Yeah, how do you suspend disbelief?
I don't really. she would never do the things Miss Grundy has done. So. But I found the podcast Couch Potatoes Unite because I've been friends with Kylie for 10 plus years.
Yes.
More than that.
Yeah.
Way more than that.
Yeah.
But I don't want to say how many years.
No.
And I think it was on your inaugural podcast, which was Doctor Who, right?
You were.
So, take that, y'all. I'm going to rank... So, I always only pick one character.
She's very specific about
I
this.
am. I didn't yell at anyone, but I think I'm going to pick Cheryl Blossom because I agree with Nate's sentiment. Like, it's fine. The show's fine. I really enjoy the show, but it also is disturbing, but I'm not going to let that get me down. I'm just going to coast right through that and keep watching. So that's that. Shall we get to some more questions?
Let's do it.
All right, so let's talk about season 1 in general. What did you like? What did you dislike? You can be specific, or you can just say general impressions that you had during season 1 only. Jump in, anyone.
I'll jump in.
Okay, thanks, Micah.
It's a podcast.
I think that it was a good format just for the first season as far as being that basic model of there's been a murder. We don't know who did it, but we have an investigative team on multiple fronts, and we'll go through various stages of, oh, it really looks like this person did it, but then we find something else out, and we're like, oh, now it seems like this person did it, and I like the kind of how it keeps you like on the ropes as an audience member in that respect. I do think, however, with spoilers, I mean, I don't know why they're watching this or listening to this podcast if they weren't ready for this information, but the fact that it was Jason's dad in the end who had killed him, I kind of felt like there was a moment, maybe a couple episodes sooner, when that should have been revealed, but then they like let that moment pass, but then revealed that that's what it was, and I was a little less or more nonplussed, depending on your definition of nonplussed, when the final reveal came out.
Everyone's nodding. You can't see us necessarily, but everybody's nodding along with you, Micah.
I appreciate that.
I'll say that I think the overall, I like the darkness of it because I feel like so many shows that are geared toward that younger generation right now are so much of like happy, happy, joy, joy, like everything is going to be great and life is all perfect, and I like that this kind of takes a little bit of a darker turn on that. I do like rewatching season 1 this past couple weeks has been interesting because I also like had this idea, like watching it again, I was like, these kids are annoying. Like they're so nosy. Like their parents are telling them to stop and like just let it be, but they're like, no, we're gonna go to this Southside Serpent person's crazy hotel room and like find his dead body. Like some of that stuff I was like, okay, so I'm like excited to watch season 2 and like hopefully I can resuspend some of that disbelief because rewatching season 1 had me like kind of annoyed.
That was very Scooby-Doo gang. Like,
Yeah.
we're going to solve this mystery.
Yeah.
I did like that it touched on some, like, deeper things that teens are going through, like
Yeah.
the slut-shaming thing, and the, like, book that I'm blanking on the football player's name right now, where they did, like, the maple thing, where they posted a picture of them and a girl with the maple syrup on it to imply that something had happened.
Yeah.
And then, you know, Veronica was like, wait, no, like, this didn't happen. You can't slut-shame girls. You can't paint them in a light that isn't true. And then having them all kind of, like, bring that to light, I feel, is really great, because there's things that kids go through now that doesn't get touched on like that. So I like that there was some real-worldness brought into the darkness and campiness almost of the show.
Yeah, and touching on that, a lot of shows that are geared around high school students are like super unrealistic. And then you can't even watch those shows because you know how bad they are. But then you watch Riverdale, and even though it is unrealistic, it's more relatable in a sense that like high school students who watch it are like, oh, like I've gone through this. Or the show is interesting because it's not like the other preppy shows.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, and of
Riverdale
course,
is the Jughead among all of the other Archie shows.
we need that heightened conflicts too, because
Yeah.
I mean, otherwise there's no show.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like Okay, I'm going to date myself here. I'm looking at Kylie because she's of a similar age to me. Kind of like Dawson.
Dating us both now.
Sorry, I'm dragging you down with me. Kind of like Dawson's Creek was to us. Like, that was a lot different than other things in Buffy. Like, showing, like, kids talking as if they are adults. Because kids are little mini adults in a lot of ways. So, this definitely, I think, probably connects to that generation.
Yeah.
I'm not in it, so I don't know, but Gabby sort of proved that point for me.
Well, and I mean, now we're talking about a comic property that is decades upon decades old, and they've found a way to freshen it up and make it relevant, I think. Although that's one of my complications kind of watching it, is that sometimes, because I know we're talking about Archie, Betty, Veronica, and Jughead, my brain starts to go, whoa, you know, this isn't the innocent, you know, milquetoast, you know, everything's happy, happy, joy, joy kind of Archie comics anymore. We're in a very sort of deeply Dynasty, Dallas, 90210, all those kinds of shows are all mixed in with these characters. So part of that for me is kind of, it's not even generational so much as it is trying to connect the two pieces that they're trying to connect. And I think that's what makes it hard for me sometimes to watch, because I get taken out of it when I think about the characters specifically.
See, for me, I know about the Archie comics, and my mom and I like to go to like estate sales and everything, so I've seen them and I know what they are, but I haven't read them. I haven't like really been exposed to them at all. So watching the show, for me, I don't have that issue. I don't have that problem because this is all I know about the characters. So it's really interesting having that perspective too.
One of the things that kind of stood out about this show is it has more of a dark style or dark cinematography, very moody and dark tones and colors. Have you been drawn to other shows of this style? It's been compared to Twin Peaks, which I know for some of you is like, what is that? Maybe. I don't want to just assume that.
They made a new Twin Peaks for
They
Showtime.
did.
Yeah.
And it also has a sister show, The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina.
They're in the same universe.
In the same universe. Are you drawn to that style, or is there, it just is like a coincidence that you like this show?
I'm personally drawn to that style. Like, I've always kind of, like, the last couple years shifted towards the, like, darker, edgier shows. So when I heard that Sabrina was going to be produced in kind of the same aspect of it, I went towards it. But then again, I also grew up on the original Sabrina and the comic Sabrina. So I like that they are kind of going away from the happy, happy, joy, joy of most TV shows and going towards the, like, darker, witchcrafty, other aspects of teen dramas.
Yeah, I've always been drawn to like the darker stuff. I'm like a huge horror movie, thriller, that sort of stuff. I love that stuff. So that's partly why I picked up Riverdale, because I was like, oh, this looks really interesting. And I'm a costume designer, so being a costume designer, I like pick up on a lot of that sort of stuff too, so I really like watching Riverdale because I like when they have the contrast, like Cheryl Blossom when she walks in and she's all dressed in white with her beautiful red hair, like contrasting with everything else. That's just like what I always pick up on when I watch that sort of stuff. So I really like it because of the style in which they've chosen to shoot it and edit it and everything.
It was beautiful. She had really beautiful costumes in the episode where it was the maple syrup tapping and like she was beautiful.
Yeah.
Even down to her accessories, they pop against everything. Like when she's in all black, she'll have like a bright red brooch or like something that just contrasts, like you said, so perfectly.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily think the dark cinematography is kind of what draws me in. I think it's more just a personal trend with me of this kind of, not necessarily timeless, but an isolated feel that the dark cinematography helps with. But, like, it feels like that in Riverdale, like, that there's only Riverdale. People sometimes will come or go, but it's kind of like this is the only, like, part of the world that really exists, because we really don't see anywhere else. Chilling Adventures of Sabrina also heavily has that feel. But even Pushing Daisies, if anybody ever watched
that show.
Very bright, very sunny, but it still had that same feel of, I don't know, almost a kind of surreal feeling of like, this is reality, but it's almost like it's in its own bubble. I haven't watched Twin Peaks. I've had it recommended by a few friends, and they've kind of described it as kind of, I feel like it would be similar in that vein.
Yep, it centers around the murder of Laura Palmer, and they're trying to solve that the whole time. I am not a Twin Peaks fan, I'm going to say. I can't even get through it, but it was very iconic in its day. You might like it. Don't go based on...
Always helps to have a murder.
Yep.
I wouldn't say I'm generally drawn to dark just for the sake of it. I was drawn to Riverdale because I thought this was something different. Not only that they're taking this old property and darkening it up, but also the fact that there was people like Luke Perry in it. That's really what drew me to it. Because I long time love him from Beverly Hills 90210. But I also was just intrigued too, like what were they going to do and how were they going to make it dark and was it going to work? You know, that was mainly my question. I watch all kinds of different shows. I watch The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. Twin Peaks has been recommended to me as well, but I wouldn't watch them necessarily just because they're of their genre. I look for what's original and fresh, and that's what Riverdale seemed to me at the time.
Let's talk a little bit about the actors then, since we've kind of set the scene. There's a lot of young talent in this. They're portraying teenagers. So we kind of have the younger group. Let's talk about them a little first. We have KJ Apa, Lily Reinhart, Cole Sprouse, Camila Mendez, Madeline Pesh, etc. Had you seen any of these people in anything?
Ooh, pick me.
I know what you're going to say, Kylie.
Cole Sprouse was young Ben on Friends.
Well, and then I grew up, so Cole Sprouse was my generation. I grew up watching...
This is the Sweet Life.
Yes, exactly. Sweet Life with Zach and Cody. My cousin and my sister and I, we watched it all the time. I loved that show. I think he is fantastic. I absolutely love him as Jughead. I think he is doing a great job. And
Jughead's my favorite character.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm really happy to see that he broke out of the Disney...
mold.
Yeah, the prison cell that's Disney. No offense to Disney because I do love Disney, but he broke out of that and has a successful career.
He's also the son in Big Daddy.
Yep.
Him and his brother are the
I did see that movie.
Adam Sandler.
But he's the only one I knew going into it. Like, I hadn't heard of KJ Apa or Lily Reinhart or Camila Mendez, none of them. But since watching it, I've seen them in other shows and movies. Like, I just watched The Hate U Give with KJ Apa, and their acting range is just phenomenal. Like, all of them are extremely talented.
Lily Reinhart's in that new J-Lo movie. I haven't seen it.
I'm going to see it today.
I want to see it.
She plays a dancer.
I think what drew me to the show is that a lot of them are like around my age.
Yeah.
In Cole Sprouse, Sweet Life on Deck, so if it's Zach and Cody, like, I grew up with that, so I'm like...
She can name a lot more.
He's still my celebrity crush. Like,
Hearts.
yeah, and he's a great actor. Like, in all of them are really, really, like, stunning. I could never do it. Yeah.
I think they all portray their characters really well, too.
Yeah.
Like, I could not imagine anybody else for Cheryl Blossom than Madeline Pesh. Like, she is Cheryl.
So good.
And
I think she's my favorite.
she's amazing. And to see her, like, because I follow her YouTube channel, and to see, like, Madeline Pesh versus Cheryl Blossom is just, like, she's this sweet little vegan who is, like, fun and bubbly and not brooding and moody. And then you go to Cheryl Blossom and she's, like, the HBIC and captain of the Riverdales, River Vixens.
Riverdale Vixens, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing I want to note, too, that I realized after I started watching the show is the guy that plays Kevin, Casey Cott, his brother, Nathan Cott, is like a big Broadway star. He was in Bandstand, and he's really talented. I really love Casey Cott. I think he does a great job, too, as Kevin.
And we saw the young gal who played Barb on Stranger Things.
Oh, yeah.
Justice for Barb.
Justice for Barb.
I can't... Justice. I said...
Down with Barb.
I can't...
Down with Barb! What?
I'm significantly anti-Barb. If you put me on the panel, I'll get into why, but I won't do that here.
We are
Don't have cross-show a nation.
Ethel is an amazing character. The character she plays is wonderful, too.
And I love Shannon Purser.
Thank you for knowing her name. I couldn't think of it.
I am also gaga for Cheryl Blossom. I just realized my mic was muted. Cheryl Blossom absolutely kills it. I mean, for me, a stone cold Peter Pan. This show with all of the teeniness in it makes me feel young and cool when I should be siding with like Luke Perry and Mark Consuelos. As far as like my age is concerned, I should be like, yeah, these kids are horrible. I'm just like, yeah, buck the system, fellow teens.
We didn't
But yeah,
mention-
I am very much Cheryl. I think she knocks it out of the park, and Cole Sprouse as well. Just bring it so hard, and it's amazing.
Nobody's really talked about Camila Mendez very much, but I think
I love her.
she's
Camilla Veronica.
Yes.
Yeah.
I actually really like Veronica. I like when she the eternal age-old debate is which of the girls do you like more?
Betty or Veronica.
Right.
Right.
I always liked Veronica because she had dark hair and I have dark hair, and whenever I can root
I can
against a
see that.
blonde, I do it
I can
because
see
it's
that.
like that old stereotype: blonde girls are nice and brown-haired girls are.
See, and traditionally I would have been a Betty person because,
Yeah.
I'm not so much of a rule breaker. But in the Riverdale show, I think I like Veronica a lot. Every time she comes on screen, she adds a little bit of electricity. Then when you put her in a scene with Cheryl, it's like, whoa.
Like the cheerleading audition, like literally just made me think of that, where she's like, well, you wanted fire, well, I'm ice. Like they're literally polar opposites of one another.
The other thing I like about Veronica is that when she first gets introduced, you kind of expect her to be like this horrible, like, snotty, uppity girl with all this money, and I think she's one of the most down to earth. She's so present and is very wise beyond her years, and I really love Veronica a lot. Not that I don't love Betty. I think Betty has some great qualities too, but I'm a Veronica person.
I'm torn. I like both the girls a lot. But in the show, I do love that Veronica comes out, I believe it's the first or second episode, and she's like, back home, I was Cheryl. I don't want to be Cheryl anymore. And she goes above and beyond to try to fix things with Betty because of the whole closet scene with Archie. And, like, you can tell that she genuinely doesn't want to be who she was in New York. But I don't know, I've always been a Barchie girl. I really like Betty and Archie.
Is that the relationship tag, Barchie?
It is. It's Barchie and then Varchie.
Of course.
And then Bughead.
Okay, I like
Bughead,
that. That's cuter.
But when they finally chose in the comic, he ended up with Veronica, right?
I don't remember.
Nate?
No, yeah, he didn't actually. There was even a story arc where he was with Midge for a short time.
Midge.
Yeah.
Midge is Moose's girlfriend.
Oh, we haven't seen
Moose's
her yet.
girlfriend.
She is mentioned in the first episode.
Oh, I missed it.
Very
Yeah,
quickly.
she gets like the most smallest amount of play because of what's going on with what they did with the Moose character, which I thought was pretty cool. I really liked because talk about depicting small town life. It was the all-American jock type character who was in the closet, and his dad is like this, is the high school football coach, But that's either here or there. But yeah, coming back, they did a whole thing with Midge, and then they had like different Archie universes where it forked off to where like here's an Archie arc where he was with Betty, here's one where he's with Veronica, and they've just kind of like since bailed on all that and rebranded it back into that like he can never choose type thing.
How
But yeah, the
convenient
Midge
for
one
him.
was a
Right?
Wow.
Well, I didn't mean it like that, but I mean, come on.
I didn't read a whole lot of the original comics. They were kind of just like, it's that thing that's like next to the TV guide, but not before the Reader's Digest at the end of the checkout line type deal. But I mean, I would like, you can glean a lot from even just those panels. They did pretty well. And pretty much all of the vibe that I ever got from those comics was that Veronica is rich and that she is mean. I understood that there was a triangle there. I didn't understand why, because I was like, but what one of them is mean and one of them is not mean. And that seems like a pretty straightforward choice. But, they were able to milk that for 4 decades, so power to them. But, so I liked it a lot, that, especially the way that Camilla is able to convincingly portray kind of being in the two worlds. She is still an incredibly wealthy person, but also is now down to earth and just having like regular high school friendships. That I think it was within either the first episode or the second episode that they were like, guess what? We're not doing that, Veronica. She's going to have a whole lot of dimension. And Betty, not to be left behind, gets like an alternate personality?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
what about that?
Is it in season
Black
one?
Betty.
Yeah.
It gets seeded
Yeah.
in season 1.
Right, because it's the hot tub scene.
Yep.
it's the hot tub
Dark
scene.
Betty.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yes.
and also playing off the idea that sister was institutionalized but unjustly, so are we thinking that
And
there's something going on there?
they hint into it a lot. Like if you watch her mannerisms, like if you watch Betty's mannerisms, like she's constantly digging her nails into the palm of her hands, like, and you can tell she's always kind of like choking back how she really feels because she doesn't want to be like not the girl next door.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I thought that whole scene was very interesting and unexpected. I think that's when the show for me like really took a turn. I was like, oh, okay. We're going, okay, this is interesting.
Oh, yeah.
I like this. And then kind of going into that whole thing with Polly, and I think we really started to see more of who Betty truly is, like, as we knew more about Polly. I thought it was really interesting when she would have moments where you could tell that she was, like, kind of almost slipping into this dark Betty, but then she's like, nope, I need to stay composed. I'm curious to see how that comes into play later in the show.
Well, she had such a tumultuous relationship with her mother, and I think that really...
Oh, yeah.
I mean, her mom smudged her
Her
bedroom.
mom is named Machen Emmett,
Yes!
and
Yeah.
she was
She's been-
in Twin Peaks.
She was
So-
in Twin Peaks
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
the Witches of Eastwick TV show.
Yeah.
So if we want, we can talk a little
Witches
bit
of
about...
East End. Witches of East End. Which tried to be like Witches of Eastwick, but was not the same.
Yeah.
The parents were... These are all really big names that I'm going to name here. So we have Luke Perry, Molly Ringwald, Machen Emmett, Marisol Nichols, Skeet Ulrich, hello.
I love him.
Love him.
And there were more, but these were just some of like, I mean, all of these people have done numerous things. So had you seen them before?
Yes.
And
All of them.
did it work for you, the casting?
Yeah.
I loved seeing Molly Ringwald
Absolutely.
come back.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
I love Brat Pack movies. So
Uh-huh.
like 16 Candles, Pretty in Pink, St. Elmo's Fire. So like to see her
Breakfast
come
Club.
back. Breakfast
Yeah,
Club. And to see her come back as like a mom, but like a badass mom. I was like, yes.
Well, so I loved her as a mom in this one in comparison to her as a mom in Secret Life of the American Teenager because that show was a train wreck. And her in that show was like just painfully awkward. I felt like she had it was almost like she kind of forgot how to act when she was in that show. And so it was just like partly the script and partly I don't know what she was doing at that time, but I really loved seeing her in this, and I thought she fit so much better in Riverdale than she did in Secret Life.
You know, when you have Luke Perry, and
Oh,
then it's like
well,
hinting at the mom. I know, R.I.P. Luke, we love you.
Yeah.
But then
Yeah.
you're. I don't know if you were thinking this, but the whole time I was like, who are they gonna get to be his wife? Like, come on, it better be somebody good.
Yeah.
They made it. They did it.
Oh yeah, they couldn't have just chosen like some rando off the street. It would have been weird. It wouldn't have worked.
Yeah, I was surprised. I thought for sure it was going to be Shannon Doherty.
Yeah!
That
That
literally-
would have been on the
I was just like, all right, here we go. And then when Molly Ringwald came in, I was just like, what a perfect thing to make the all-American redheaded boy. Like, bad boy, Luke Perry, and your mom is Molly Ringwald. And I was like, perfect. Perfect.
a mix of celebrity genetics that can't be beat.
Yeah, I mean, like they said right at the beginning of the first episode, Archie's got abs now.
Archie got
They did a
hot.
really good job of Dreamboat. They made Dreamboat Archie with that amazing gene pool.
I also think it's important that they had such a dynamite cast for the adults because one of the other things that sets Riverdale apart from other teenage shows is that while there's usually some adult-related drama in those shows, it's generally either like an illicit relationship with a teenager or a teacher. That's a very popular thing to throw in there. But also it's just like, I'm your parent, and so whatever the plot of this episode is going to be, I will be a convenient antagonistic force. So overcome me. But with Riverdale, it's not just that the kids are like trying to like solve this murder. They're not just being nosy and gossipy. Like there's an entire dynamic among the adults that the kids had no idea about, and this season is them kind of realizing things aren't as idyllic as we thought they were. They're not as simple as we thought they were, and our parents are not the people that we thought they were. And almost, I think, on every front with Jughead and FP, Archie and his dad, and especially Betty and her parents, and also Cheryl and her parents to somewhat of a lesser degree. they kind of have to make the decision that we kind of have to take charge here. We have to grow up a little bit faster than we wanted to because these people that we love and who raised us are not getting it done.
Yeah.
And to piggyback off of that, I feel like this is a show where the parents aren't just kind of background characters.
Yeah.
Because, like, in a lot of, like, the teen sitcoms or even other sitcoms, the parents are just kind of like the Charlie Brown, like the wah, 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 wah. But, like, in this one, they actually have, like, dimension and, like, they have stories that go along with their children's stories or, like, that even bring you in more. And I think their parents being such, like, in-depth characters brings in other age groups as well. Because, like, they are, you know, from other generational movies and stuff, they can bring in parents and they can be like, okay, I don't know Cole Sprouse, but I know Luke Perry, so I'm going to watch it because of that.
And that was a major draw for me. I mean, I did know Cole Sprouse, now that we've established that. But Luke Perry was one of the headliner people from the very beginning. And like I said, love him long time, since 90210. So I was very, very excited to see him. Marisol Nichols was also on 90210.
I know her from National Lampoon's Las Vegas Vacation. She
Oh,
plays the
that's
daughter.
right. She is in that one.
I don't know. I mean, she did a ton of other stuff, but I just always am like, oh, you're...
And I feel like we should mention that Skeet Ulrich, of course, kicked off the Scream franchise.
Oh, yeah.
I love
but
him.
he was also
Yeah.
in The Craft, too. Which,
He was
like,
in The Craft.
to me, like, kind of...
Hashtag guilty pleasure.
Yeah, exactly. I love anytime he like always pops up in the most random places too, but I love him. I think he's great, and I love him as FP. I think he does a fantastic job. Him playing with Cole Sprouse has been really cool and really interesting to watch. I think he's another one of those really underrated actors in Hollywood.
Yeah, it was crazy because Skeet Ulrich looked like he was 40 years old in the first Scream movie. So to have him to be but I mean now like he's got this distinguished look. He like basically grew into his looks, and I think he does a great. I mean, just playing the downtrodden working dad to Luke Perry's hard-working dad is, I think is a testament to his acting as well. And also, we're only talking about season 1 right now, but Mr. Mark Consuelos as Hiram Lodge was absolutely genius because, I mean, he's got a smile that...
No, he doesn't.
Yeah, he does.
I don't think he does. I
And
think
here's how I know.
Season 2.
I've only watched through season 1.
No, he only was up in season 2. Both threatened in season 1. But, I mean, if we're talking about the parents, I had to drop Kelly Ripa's husband in there.
Well, they did add a lot of diversity that isn't necessarily in the comics, for sure. And that was nice that they added some diversity in Veronica's background and also the Pussycats. And Robin Gibbons plays Josie's mom as the mayor. I didn't mention her yet, but I was like, oh yeah, here we go.
She's wonderful as well.
I want to talk about...
fantastic. Out of the class, y'all.
Yeah, you're out of the class. Oh, I loved that show.
Me too. And these people
are like, what's that?
Like, what are you even talking about?
What are you even talking about?
We'll chat later, guys.
I want to talk about Josie, but I think Gabby had something to say.
The cast, it's just awesome how they probably didn't know each other anyway.
Right.
But they all just came together, and this show is awesome because of the cast. Like, they make it their own.
A really
Definitely.
good ensemble.
Yeah.
They're very strong together. Everybody plays off each other really well.
Yes.
I don't think there's anybody on there that I'm like, meh, they're okay, or they're not that great. I think everybody does a really fantastic job.
And the parents go with the kids.
Perfectly.
They look similar, which, I mean, I know that you don't always have to look like your parents, but I hate it when they're, like, so different. You're like, clearly these people are not related.
Yeah.
And they did a nice job of, like, using these big-name actors to bring us in, but yet they still fit the people.
I think Polly's the Betty and Polly, that whole family is, like, perfect. Like, even Betty
and you know
and
that
Polly
was young Robin on Once Upon a
Yeah.
Time.
No, I didn't know
Yeah.
She was!
Yep. I think Betty and Polly are look like they could easily be related. I think they're perfect together, but like that whole family looks so great. I love it.
While we're on the topic of Polly, is anybody else just like not really feeling it? Honestly, she kind of seems, and this may be directing, it may be actor portrayal, but she just seemed really like a plot device with lines. She was almost like a MacGuffin for this season, because it's like, oh, she's living at home and she's with the Sisters of Perpetual Sorrow or whatever sunny name they had for that place. Now she's living with the Lodges. Now she's living with the Blossoms. She seemed more like a football that was getting passed around, and anytime they tried to like give her any character depth, I was really just kind of annoyed with it. I feel like she could have remained kind of like a faceless entity for a little bit longer.
I'm really curious to see what they do with her now, knowing that she's back at her house. She's back there, the Coopers. I was like totally blanking on what their last name is. Now that she's back at the Coopers, I think it's going to be interesting to see what they do with her, because like my favorite Polly moment was when she was on the phone with Betty and Betty's like, you need to get out of there, and she goes, no, I'm here because they have a secret. I'm here to figure this out, and like I know what's going on, and like I thought that was a really strong moment for her. So I'm curious to see how that continues through the show and what they use her for.
I didn't struggle quite the same way, Micah, because even though, yes, they didn't give her a ton of character depth in the first season, what it showed, she ended up being true. She ended up being a device, but it was a device that exposed kind of all of the seedy underbellies, and it also gave you, I mean, you were already kind of watching the Blossoms with suspicion. With them, it kind of gave you a little bit of a red herring in terms of maybe they're better than we thought they were. Oh wait, maybe they're not. So she became that glimpse into sort of these secret lives, whether it was her own family or the Lodges or the Blossoms, and maybe they didn't really expand her much more than what we saw, but at the same time, I think that depth to the Coopers is not really meant to be with Polly. I think it's Betty and her mom are really the two key members of that family, and Polly's going to end up being a mirror to the extent that I've only watched season 1. So I might be wrong, but I just think that's where Polly fits, at least in the first season.
Yeah, she really blossoms as a character in the later season. But you're right. In season 1, you get the feeling like, did they forget they were contractually obligated to write lines for her? And then they just like ham-fisted them in there. But yes, as the series progresses, you find out that there's a lot more to Polly, and she gets a little bit more depth. Like I said, I've binge watched all of these. It's a really... Because you start out, you're just like, you feel bad for this Polly character because, you know, here she is, she feels like she's a black sheep, so she's going to run off with her boyfriend. Then her parents, like, send her essentially to an asylum, and then you're just like, whoa, what is up with the Coopers? But then as you get deeper into the layers, you find out that you don't quite understand why they wanted their kids to be brought up here if it's such a dirty underbelly.
Also, the big, elephant that has not been touched on yet is the incest.
Oh my God.
Because
yes.
Polly and Jason are cousins.
Right.
Yeah.
And that was kind of like a sour taste in my mouth. You find out more later on, without going into spoilers or anything. You find out some more stuff in the following seasons. But that just kind of was like the curveball in season 1 where I was like,
Well, so the dad...
Yeah.
Why can I not
Hal.
that
Hal.
actor's name?
Hal.
But he's famous too, the guy that plays
yeah,
the dad.
I can't think of it.
Yeah.
I'll tell you.
He's a huge
I've got
big-time character actor.
Thank you. But he wanted her to go get an abortion because he knew.
Yep.
So that does come into
Yeah,
play.
it does. It's like the last few. I went to the Wikipedia to make sure it was brought up in season 1 because I don't want to ruin anything.
It's Lachlan Monroe.
Lachlan Monroe, and he appears. You will see him now all over if you aren't familiar with him.
He was in Scary Movie.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he was everywhere.
I just had another one that he was in The Predator, the new one.
He was in Charmed, the original with
I trust you. It's been years.
Yeah.
But it was just weird.
I thought that whole relationship was just very interesting in general, and I thought it almost felt a little like, I know why it was there, but it almost didn't really fit. I think part of it was because we didn't know Jason at all, and I think that's kind of part of my hang up on it, is that we don't know anything about Jason. We only have seen him in little glimpses and little flashbacks. So I think that's part of my main issue with the whole Polly-Jason relationship. The incest is it's almost like a hometown thing. Like, I feel like it's that, like, it's small town.
It's not small town, I promise.
It's like a stereotype.
It is,
It's
though.
a stereotype of, like, that hometown living. It's like everybody's, like, sleeping with their cousin. And,
Did they know they were cousins, though?
No,
See,
because
I
you don't
think-
find out
Right.
until later.
That's what I thought. See, yes, that was a curveball, but I was able to get over it because A, they didn't know, and
Yeah.
B, I watch Game of Thrones and I'm desensitized.
True. It's very true.
Par for the
Lannisters kind
course.
of mainstreamed it.
And they fully knew in
We
Game
haven't-
of Thrones.
Yeah.
So,
We haven't really talked about the Blossom parents a lot
Oh,
yet,
yeah.
and
Yeah.
I feel like everyone's just maybe a little too afraid to acknowledge the biggest plot twist of this entire show, which was the Clifford Blossom was wearing a wig the whole time.
No,
That blew my mind.
Was that shocking to you?
I just rewatched that episode last night and watched the scene where they show Jason's murder.
Yes.
And, like, I thought they shot that so brilliantly. It was watching the kids watching that video.
And just,
Like you
Yes.
you knew something horrible was happening, but the way that they all reacted was such a real reaction. I thought they did that so beautifully.
Makes
and
you
so
wonder
well.
if the actors didn't know and they're
Right,
just
because-
react to this video. And
Right?
I think my favorite reaction was Lily's. Like, Betty's, her reaction, like, just stone cold, no sounds from her crying, but, like, the tears coming down, and she calls Cheryl and is like, not saying what happened, but, like,
Yeah.
you need to get out of there, like...
And then her reaction, Cheryl's reaction was also great. Watching her on the phone, I understand, and there's just, like, single tears, and I'm like, what the heck? Like, so good.
the
So
show
good.
is very noir, the way they
Yes.
shoot it,
Mhm.
which I
Oh,
think
yeah.
is also interesting.
So the Blossoms are the seemingly the head of this maple syrup conglomerate, which is like I say
drug
conglomerate. Well, it's a
Yeah.
front for a drug thing, but we
Yeah.
we find that out a little bit later. But all the time I was watching it, I was like, how are they that rich off the maple syrup? Like what?
Right?
What are they doing? And then it turns out that there's drugs.
Drugs.
Well, there's probably
Hey,
somewhat
syrup
of a
is
syrup
really
monopoly.
good.
Yeah, everybody loves it.
That small hometown syrup,
I'm
straight
gonna have
from the
big
trees.
syrup. Yeah, I'm gonna have big syrup after me. I'm sorry, but
Mrs. Butter
I will
is
say-
gonna come after
yeah,
you.
Mrs. Butter.
For a while, I did believe that FP had killed Jason.
Yeah.
For a long time.
Yeah.
That was a twist. Like, seeing it be not Hal. That's Betty's dad.
Clifford, yeah.
Clifford. To, like, know that it was Clifford that killed his own son. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, I thought that was a really great twist to throw in there. I thought that was a really strong shift. So I'm curious to see how that continues to play out.
I kind of wanted it to be the mom, not him.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to
Yeah.
say. I knew FP was a red herring because
Yeah.
that's like a standard trope. You bring in the wrong side of the tracks, it's got to be him. He's an easy scapegoat. He happens to be involved with, and mixed up in all this mess.
He admits it to save his son. He's
Correct.
worried.
Yeah.
I knew it wasn't him, but I kept wondering if it wasn't the mom because
I-
she's stone cold.
right.
I rewatching it again last night too. I had like in the back of my mind that it was her, but then I was like, oh wait, that's right. No, it was the dad.
But she covered it up.
Yeah,
So I
she
guess
knew,
she's just as
yeah.
bad.
I think all the Blossom characters are really great, though. Like, Nana Rose.
Oh
I
my
love Nana Rose.
Yeah.
And, like, she knew about Betty and, not Betty, oh my goodness, I apologize. Polly and Jason.
Uh-huh.
And that, like, when she thought that Betty was Polly,
Yeah.
and she found out all that stuff from Nana Rose, I kind of, like, I'm Team Nana Rose a little bit. Like, I love her.
But also in the same way that they had Polly kind of show this single brain cell of deviousness, where she was like, I'm going to stay in this house and find out what's going on. I'm not sure if it was in this season or if we see it in later seasons, but Nana Rose is kind of introduced as like the dottery, senile, not all there,
That's in this season.
like
Yeah.
Blossom relative, but she's super not. She, I think, knows a lot more things. I think part of her dotteriness is an act of preservation, because if she's perceived as not a threat by family members that she knows will kill other family members, then she can stay alive. But she's still watching. She still has an eye out and is keeping
Literally.
tabs on things. Just the one.
Just yeah.
Yeah, I agree completely. Which again, this all folds later, but yeah, yes, it sets the stage really well. Like it is those. I mean, and they also. What's funny about the show is that these kids are all in high school, but I have never heard a group of people say the term Dickensian so much in my life. The Blossoms are the quintessential Dickensian family. Like, they are just so rooted in their own backbiting, venomous evil that, they don't even know how to be nice anymore. Like, even Cheryl burns down her own house. Which had happened in season 1, by the way.
Well, see, the other thing rewatching season 1 that kind of had me like, wait, what's going on, was the whole Hiram Lodge versus the Blossoms thing. And, like, trying to keep track of all of that stuff got a little hard to follow. And I thought it was kind of unnecessary for everything else that was going on. Watching that, because we haven't even talked about it yet. Like, I think that was a plot point that wasn't all that important, but I'm sure it'll become more so later. But
yeah, it seemed like they very conspicuously did not show us Hiram Lodge, but yet wanted us to be thinking about him constantly. I think that's maybe so they could reveal him in season 2, and it would be like a huge deal.
Yeah,
they kept trying to say, oh, was he responsible? Oh, did he do this? When really he had nothing to do with the murder. So that was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Another red herring, I guess.
Yeah, well, because then there was all this stuff about him, like, purchasing the land and, like, his involvement with the Southside Serpents. So, like, all of that stuff kind of got a little tedious for me, just trying to, like, keep track of all of it.
I agree with that. But now I want to circle back to Josie.
We breezed past Josie.
Because Josie and the Pussycats is one of those time-honored spin-off. I mean, they've done movies of her, and they've got albums of people styling themselves as Josie and the Pussycats. What did we think of this Josie and the Pussycats?
I loved her, and she's so sassy. She's getting her own spinoff, like Josie is.
Yep.
And I'm so excited for that. But in season 1, she was just kind of that unexpected breath of fresh air when she was in the scenes. And the other girls were too. The whole group was just kind of like standing up for women of color, for one, which I feel like is needed very much so. And they were like, we are going to hear our voice, like, regardless. Like, we're wonderful and we know it. And I think girls need girls like that to look up to nowadays. Like, girls who will stand their ground and know what they're fighting for.
And they were very clear, too. I like how they kind of helped Archie in some ways, but they were also like, we're not here to become your background people. Like, that's we're not about that. That was nice.
Yeah, I thought that whole thing was really nice, because it was this season 2 where there was the whole drama with Josie and her dad and performing at the talent show and all of that, and I thought that was all like a really interesting thing to see, because we also don't typically see people of color and girls of color growing up in a more affluent household, so I thought that was another like really great thing to see on the show, and to see how all of that stuff is still affecting her as well, because it's something that we don't see ever.
Yeah,
that is one of the strengths I think that the writers brought to the show, is that, as we said, it is they've added a lot more diversity than you would have had in the comics way back in the day, but they also didn't ride that all the way to kind of making the town colorblind in terms of like, nope, everyone gets along here in Riverdale, everyone's happy. Like, Josie's mom is still, and her dad are still very much rooted in their African American identity, and they make sure she is too. You have Hermione and Veronica speaking Spanish here and there, just endearing ways. So they were able to kind of eliminate racism in terms of being like a broad spectrum force in the town, but without eliminating racial identities, and that's a really important thing to do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well said. I also I like the moody atmosphere that their particular style of music brings, because traditionally Josie has been, kind of that sort of
bubblegum
skiffle rock, exactly.
Yeah.
Nothing much more in depth, but they have kind of a modern sensibility with a lot of different influences that run through their music, which is interesting. And the fact that they bring Veronica on for a little while. They do help Archie with his much more acoustic indie bend.
It
that
did
kind of
cause a little
stuff.
bit of a rift for a little bit, though, when Valerie was dating Archie. Like, that kind of caused, like, a falling out for a minute there, but...
I like when she broke up with him. She's like, no,
She's like, I'm not your pity me, get over your other girl. She's like, it's me or it's not me, so it's not me, and bye.
I love that.
That was another good writing moment I liked, because I think they've been, like, having a few episodes establishing that relationship, And then I forget what it was. It was midway through the season. Something super dramatic and important happened. And there were like 2 whole episodes where we did not see Val at all. He didn't text her. He didn't call her. And usually writers will just have that be like, nope, that was just like kind of a meanwhile thing. We're just going to snap right back into where we were. But then when he talks to her, she's like, dude, you haven't contacted me at all in like the past 2 days. What the hell? So I was glad there was like, they kept that as kind of the canon, rather than like using it as just a magical writing device.
Off camera. Yeah. I mean, that was a really cool, like, I mean, we always talk about all these big moments where you're just like, what? But it was like when she was like, I'm not going to be your rebound. I was just like, damn, yes. Like, way to go.
I think it was during the maple syrup stuff where he was doing all the things with Cheryl, and she was like, I don't really care what your reason is. You can't go out with her. Like, it's not cool, dude.
Yeah, because he wanted so badly to be serious, and then here he is showing up as Cheryl's basically man whore. She's getting him into the exclusive music school, and all he has to do is go out on dates with her all the time and be seen in public.
Good segue. Let's talk about his music a little bit, because one of the more controversial plot points involved Archie having an affair with his music teacher, Geraldine Grundy, who was played by Sarah Hable. What did you guys think about this? About Archie wanting to do music and kind of his journey and that whole thing?
Not gonna lie, at first I was just kind of like, this seems pointless. Like, why are you sleeping with your music teacher? But then going back and rewatching it, I was like, okay, this is all making sense. But at first that kind of turned me off the show for a little bit. But then you find more about Miss Grundy. Like, this wasn't her first time doing this. And like, it sounds bad to say, but I love the strain that it put on Betty and Archie, because Betty knew she couldn't tell anybody. She's telling him it's not worth it. Your music is good on your own. You don't need her to help you. I was here for it after a little bit.
It was really interesting to me because I too kind of at first was like, why do we need this? Why is this here? Why is this happening? Sarah, I'm sure you know, is she in the show for the other seasons?
Can I spoil season 2?
She is in it for...
She appears in, I believe, 2 episodes of season 2.
Okay. Because I haven't I watched season 2
well,
or part of it, but I'm ready to watch the rest of it. I'll probably start it tonight.
Yes.
I am really interested to see like where they take her, because she was there and then she was just like all of a sudden gone. She was like, see ya, bye. And when I first watched this show, I had also recently finished watching Bates Motel, and that was like kind of a similar vibe, and he also had an affair with his teacher. So when I was rewatching season 1 of Riverdale, in my head, when I was first watching it, I was thinking about Bates Motel, and spoiler, he kills the teacher in Bates Motel, and for some reason that was what was going through my mind when he was initially having this affair. I was like, oh wait, he kills her, and then I finished watching it, I'm like, oh wait, that was Bates Motel. Wrong show.
Not making Archie that dark yet.
No, not quite.
It is then revealed that she is really named Jennifer Gibson, and she's on the run from this abusive relationship.
Yeah.
So there's some things...
Yeah. It's revealed, but that reveal goes by so quick.
Yeah, it
goes
goes
like
by
you blink and you miss it.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
I didn't have any... I'm basically where they were. I didn't know what was going on or why we needed it at the time. And even now, as I reflect back on it, unless there's more revealed in season 2, I feel the same.
Look, I am a high school teacher, so I generally hate this sort of thing.
Good. I thought this was going to go really weird.
No. But I will say, I'm not going to say that kind of thing doesn't happen, because that would just be a lie. But personally, I find it wrong, and so I don't like perpetuating that hot teacher-student. But I love Sarah Hable, so I was like, ooh, what are you doing?
Now, what's funny, because again, like I said, I grew up reading the Archie comics, and so when they were like, this is Ms. Grundy, I was like, oh wait, so everyone has to be hot now? Like, everybody in Riverdale, I was like, man, what is Mr. I thought they were going to get like Terry Crews to be Mr. Weatherby.
It's the maple syrup. That's why they're all
Take it off.
There's something in Sweetwater River.
Yeah, there's something in there. So I was really... So then when it got revealed that, then they showed like the obituary of the real Ms. Grundy, who looked like the old matron teacher more from the comic books, I was like, okay, all right. Now this makes a little bit more sense. But yeah, when he starts, when it's revealed that he's had this relationship, I was like, man, you're really like, for a new show, you're really like going into one of the most cliched teen drama tropes. And they turned it around. They really made it work. And I thought she did a great job as Miss Grundy with that character.
I think that she looks young.
Yeah, I know.
It
It looks like they,
teacher.
at first, you're just like off of camera. KJ and her are, I was like, are they the same age in real life? Like
No,
I was,
I don't
because
think
she looked ridiculously young.
I feel
I
like
think that what kind of sets that one apart from the other like teacher-student relationship tropes is that they linked it directly to being like an evidence point in the murder. So they establish at pretty early on in the season that like eventually, if all the truth comes out about this, that's going to have to come out as well. It wasn't just a dramatic thing to enhance Archie's character. Usually in those, the teacher is kind of the throwaway character. They will eventually be gotten rid of, as she was, but I mean, like, for good reason. So there was depth there. I also liked that they kind of kept with their theme of adults having seedy secrets and past. We meet her as, she is the very sweet, mild-mannered music teacher. They kind of fell in love in a very organic and regular way during the summer, and then when you find out about her alternate identity, it's because she's on the run from an abusive boyfriend, and you're like, she didn't deserve to be treated this way. But then in like the very last scene or shot that we see her in for her episode where she has apparently gone on to Greendale, she's got those heart-shaped glasses back on, lollipop in her mouth, and she like kind of shoots a look at some other like teen stud walking down the street, and you're like, she may not be who we thought she was. She's a little darker.
Well, I think kind of looking back on all these little minor plot points, it kind of feels like the beginning of season 1. They knew where they wanted to end the season, but then getting to that end point, they were kind of like, what can we throw in here?
A little bit of this.
Yeah, I feel like the last half of season 1 was so much stronger than the first half of season 1 because it like very much felt like, we know where we want the end point to be, and we kind of know how we want to get there, but we have to fill in. We have 13 episodes to get here, so what can we kind of fill in? So
I agree with that so much, because rewatching it, I definitely, the first few episodes, I was like, this is so cringy. Why did I like this? Why did I watch this? But then, like you said, like you get past the midway point, and you're like, that's why I liked it.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's talk about the serpents. Can we talk about the serpents?
Can we please?
Those of you that are from small towns, is there a similar gang?
I don't think Petoskey is a good place to go off of. But, I mean, there's definitely, like, your cliques. Like, you have, like, the jocks. You have the theater kids. You have that. I don't know, but I was, like, smitten for the serpents so hard. I was like, okay, biker gang? I'm down.
I'm not from a small town.
That's
That's how you post the question.
Is there a biker gang in yours? No. I'm from a small town. There was no biker gang.
I mean,
but boy, were they cool.
There are bikers here in Grand Rapids.
Grand Rapids is not a small town, Emily.
I know. That's why I'm like, I'm not really from a small town to be able to say that they're. Well, yeah, I don't know.
I mean, I think.
I would just say.
Go ahead, Micah.
If they were, this is probably not as crucial as what you were going to say, but if there was going to be a biker gang in Petoskey, I feel like the Rolling Stones would be a pretty good name.
You're so funny.
Copyright. Trademark infringement. Now they're going to sue all of Petoskey.
I don't know. I'll keep my opinions to my hometown to myself.
Petoskey dwellers, tweet at us at CPU Podcast what you think your biker gang should be called.
They actually had to redo our mascot because we were the Northmen and it was an Indian head.
Since we've taken a more serious turn, I do have a grown-up statement to make about the serpents, not just bad puns.
I think bad puns are, dad jokes and still grown-up statements, but continue.
Go ahead, Micah.
That's fair assessment. I like the mislead with them, and I think we don't really get a lot of this until the second season about the actual dynamic of the gang, because in the first season they do seem very, like, we're a gang, we do crime. We're not doing like large-scale corporate crime like the Blossoms and the Lodges, but we're kind of like the boots on the ground when it comes to that thing. But there is, and especially once you kind of get into like FP embracing his role as like the head serpent, it's very much a family dynamic, and you kind of get the feeling that, because they touch on it a lot, that the south side is neglected, the north side is where all of the wealth is. And so the serpents really started just as kind of a way for people who lived on the south side to keep each other safe and to kind of like establish their own sense of identity, to where if like, okay, we don't have the money, we don't have the resources, but we have each other and we know the turf, and like this is where we live. And we get a lot more of that, especially because Jughead is homeless during this first season, and we don't learn that for a little bit. And so it's kind of more like, all right, I'm FP, I'm coming back into the fold. You are my son. Please also come back into the fold, if not with me, with the serpents in general.
Right.
The thing
Get protected by the serpents. You know, they're a family. Yeah, it's very much an identity thing. It's not, and yeah, they are all just like, it's all petty crimes, like smash and grab stuff. They're always like, the serpents don't run drugs, but we will break into a liquor store and steal.
That's exactly how they sound.
The only thing I could liken this to is, have you seen Stand By Me, the movie?
Yep.
The serpents are basically Ace and his gang just grown up, and it harkens back a little bit. That's set in the 50s. It harkens back to that decade. I don't know that that's realistic now.
Kylie likes to bring up Stand By Me, and I have never seen it.
Oh my god!
I'm sorry, I know it's Will Wheaton.
And River Phoenix, pre-death. And Jerry O'Connell when he was chubby and not cute. And Corey Feldman before he was too crazy.
Right.
Yeah.
To piggyback what on Micah said, though, there is that small town vibe where there is part of your town that is like the not cared for side of town that's kind of run down. You can tell that the lower income families live there, and then there is like the parts of the town where it's like the bigger, nicer houses. You can tell that they are like taken care of, and that their streets get fixed or whatever they need gets done, whereas the other part of town doesn't necessarily get that. That is, I think, a dynamic that people watching the show can relate to, be it a small town or a big town. Like, there's things like that in big cities, like in Grand Rapids and Kalamazoo. You can definitely tell when you cross that line where it's not the upkept part of town anymore.
True.
Yeah.
It was a good device too to help us deal with a lot of the issues. There was the alcoholism, the abusiveness. Jughead's mom had left and taken his sister and didn't want to come back and help him. And there was foster care,
and she wouldn't let him go to her because there was the episode where he called and said, "Can I come stay with you and Jellybean for a little bit?" And she straight up told her son no.
Yeah.
And there's just a
it wasn't
lot.
a good time.
I think the serpents are a good distraction to what was really going on in Riverdale.
Yeah.
Because, they did like the petty stuff, but what was really going on, they wanted them to focus on the serpents, and the serpents are bad, but it was their distraction.
It was the rich people doing the serious crimes.
Yeah. Well, the serpents were also like a scapegoat for everybody else.
Yeah.
They were like, oh, it must have been the serpents that killed Jason. Like, obviously. It must have been the serpents that did all this other stuff. They were just kind of the scapegoat for the rich people that were really doing the bad things.
Side note, I could not think that her name was Jellybean. I kept wanting to say Peas Blossom, and I know that's from
because they call her JB. So she's Jellybean.
That's right.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's because who are you going to point your finger at first? The biker gang that does the petty crime, or the rich family that's harvesting syrup? Like, which one?
You put that in air quotes, but they aren't doing the syrup.
I mean, they were actually harvesting syrup, but that's not where the money was coming from.
Right?
True.
Was it cocaine or heroin? What did they have?
I don't think we
I
really
don't
know.
think they
We just
say.
saw
Nate
the
says
bags.
Nate says heroin. Thanks,
Okay.
Nate.
Thanks, Nate.
Because we just saw Clifford hanging, and then like the barrels like tipped over with the stuff.
That was also a mind blown moment. Was Clifford hanging with all the drugs and syrup and did not see his death coming.
I did. I kind of, like, when I saw them walking out to the barn, I was like, oh, he's dead. He's dead.
He's dead.
He's not just hanging out in the barn. There's no. He's gone. But I didn't expect the drugs. The drugs definitely threw me for a loop.
Do you have any favorite episodes that you want to highlight?
I don't have favorite episodes. I have favorite moments from
Yeah.
episodes. So, like, we kind of already touched on when they see the video and we don't know what they're watching.
Right.
But, like, we see all their reactions. You know, Betty with the silent tears, Veronica covering her mouth, Archie and Jughead just kind of looking in disbelief. That was a favorite moment. Another one of my, like, hands down favorite moments was the river scene when Cheryl says she's going to be with Jason. Because you see a vulnerability in Cheryl that you really hadn't seen all season. Like, you knew she loved her brother, kind of gave a Lannister vibe to her love for her brother.
A little bit.
So much.
For those of us that don't know what that means, can you?
Oh, it's incest.
Yeah.
It's more incest.
When Lannisters knowingly sleep with each other the whole time.
But
Yeah,
she,
I know
like,
it.
has, like, an unhealthy obsession with her brother Jason, who she calls JJ, and it's like...
And they even talk about it, I think, in the early episodes. They're even like, are Cheryl and Jason, like, sleeping together? Are they, like,
And
in
Cheryl
love
talks
with each
about
other?
how they're the same person, like, he's the only person that understands
soulmate.
her soulmate, and so to see... And again, this just bringing it back to Madeline Pesh and her acting abilities. You go from seeing her as this HBIC, as she refers to herself, to this, like, broken, vulnerable person. And just, like, seeing... I mean, there's not a huge friendship between Archie, Betty, Veronica, them, and Cheryl, but to see the fear and the, like, oh, God, we have to go now. Like, we have to get her. Like, that whole scene just, like, hands down one of my favorite ones.
And it shows, like...
But
even if they aren't friends, they're there for each other. And, like, I read this thing that when Archie was, like, saving her, he actually broke his hand.
That's why he's in a cast for the rest of the episode, because when he punched the ice, he legitimately, like,
Well, the
broke
actor?
him. Yeah, KJ Apa actually broke his hand.
Yeah.
now that she's mentioning the dynamic between Cheryl and Jason, though, that's another thing that I think it just slipped out of my mind during the season, so I wasn't able to observe this arc before. But now that you mention it, that's another thing that kind of gets, like, blown out, because they're not just the rich kids who are twins and they're weird. You're like, are they in love with each other? That's weird. You learn, not really through scenes of his own. That actor did a good job of standing in multiple scenes, but you learn that he was very much not okay with just their kind of family dynamic in general. He was a rebel. He was planning to run away with the girl that he loved and their kids, who he didn't know were the cousin kids, but, like, it was just, he had a bit of I think a Romeo vibe. Now imagine living with those parents as children. They really were the only two people who can kind of relate to each other as far as what they had to go through, and the only haven in their house was probably when they were able to spend time with each other. So it kind of changed it. Maybe it wasn't anything creepy. Maybe it was just, like, bond of trauma type stuff.
Well, one of my other favorite scenes in the show was Jason's memorial, and when they were all in the house, and again, all of the kids were there for each other. At that point, Cheryl and the girls, like, really weren't getting along all that well, but they were still all there supporting each other. And the costumes in that episode, I keep talking about, like, that's my favorite
amazing,
thing. She looked stunning. She looked so beautiful in that scene. I think that was the episode where she was wearing all the white.
Because she wore the dress that she had worn when they went to Sweetwater's River, because her mom was like, don't make a scene, don't do this, whatever.
She's like, haha.
And it was Veronica, because they'd had a sleepover the night before, and Veronica said, no, like, essentially use your voice. Like, you need to talk about Jason.
Yep, I thought that whole scene was really beautiful. Same with the scene where they go and tap the maple tree for the first tapping of the season or whatever it was. I thought that whole scene was really great as well, because again, it showed that Cheryl was this really strong person. She, like, puts on this front that she's strong, but you see her break down in all these moments, and then to watch her actually stand back up and do it was really cool.
Well, and to piggyback off that, and how you were talking about how the girls' relationships, like, they're there for each other, they're not necessarily friends. It was either the second or the third episode when they're at the football game and Archie comes out wearing Jason's number, and she sees him as Jason, not as Archie, and takes off. And who runs after her but Betty and Veronica?
Yeah.
Veronica gets there first, so Betty steps back. But it, again, just kind of that whole unspoken dynamic is what I really like from the show, which builds the moments and makes them more memorable.
Yeah, absolutely.
Are there any least favorite episodes or moments? Things that you just were like, ugh.
I understand the bringing in of Dark Betty, but that whole Chuck episode, while I agree with Jessica, it was important to bring to light the whole dynamic that can happen where boys are slut-shaming girls or saying, this girl did this with me, even though that super duper didn't happen. It was, I don't know. Chuck episodes are interesting, I think, throughout the seasons. It just, that one specifically felt like filler. The one with learning about Ethel and her dad and his whole relationship that he'd had with Hiram Lodge, that one also really kind of felt like filler to me.
Yeah, for me, it was just some of those filler plot points that, like, we really didn't need. Those are the things that kind of bothered me, like, all the stuff with Archie and his music. Like, I just kind of thought it was like, meh, whatever, I don't really care about this.
I will say, like, even though I was all just like, yeah, girl relationships, the inconsistency sometimes kind of really threw me off. Like, you do find, like, the biggest one that sticks out to me is when Veronica's trying to make it up to Betty for what happened, and all of a sudden now Betty wants to take Cheryl to get mani-pedis and blowouts. And you find out later why she did it, why Cheryl agreed to it and was being nice. But those weird, like, filler moments just don't make sense sometimes. And they do later, but in the moment it's just kind of like, what's going on? Why are we doing this? So those are the moments I don't particularly care for that make it hard to come back to older seasons of the show. Just that weird inconsistency.
Yeah, in some ways I think in this 13 episodes there was a lot of trying to find a rhythm a little bit, and so I don't know that I have super favorite moments or super least favorite moments. I think there were some that went very much slower and others that went faster, and the ones that had more tension and that picked up the mystery are the ones that I tended to really, I guess, be more interested in, and the ones that were trying to fill in the characters a little bit, especially the character dynamics, like you were just mentioning, the Betty and Cheryl one, for example. Those just tended to drag sometimes in the first season, but I didn't hate anything, nor did I super love anything, per se.
Season 1 ended with a little bit of a cliffhanger
A
of
little.
Pops getting robbed, and
Sorry.
Fred was shot.
Yeah.
So pretend you don't know what happened.
I know, it's like, wait.
But I already even know what happens because he's in other seasons of the show.
Well, yeah,
Pretend
exactly.
you don't.
Oh, that's hard.
Pretend
I know,
you were
right?
just
It's
watching and share how that made you feel. Were you surprised? Were you concerned? Or were you like, whatever, it's going
I
to be
screamed
fine?
at the TV.
I
Legit,
was
the
like-
first time I saw it, I was like, what?
Well, see, that's like the glory of Netflix, is that I think that's why I ended up starting season 2, is because I was like, I have to know what happens. And so, like, I did that. It's kind of like what I did with Jane the Virgin. Like, I binge watched all of that on Netflix, so then I didn't have to worry about, like, I have to wait the whole summer to find out what's going to happen. But I was kind of like, oh, okay, that's a twist. Yeah,
I was too late in coming to it, so I can't fairly answer this question because I just knew he was coming back.
So I finished season 1, but season 2 wasn't on Netflix, so I had to wait. Like,
Oh,
I was
good,
like
okay.
anticipating, like, I was so scared. I was like crying when it was happening, and then season 2 came out, I figured out, but it was like the scariest moment. Because I couldn't anticipate what was
Right. You're just like, what happened?
I was waiting.
Why
waiting.
him?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was what was nice is I came in for watching it so that I got to go right into season 2. But what wasn't nice is I was so tired at work the next day because that was already like my second episode, so I was already like 2 hours into Riverdale, and then I was like, all right, well, I guess I'm going to bed at 2 tonight because I'm not going to not watch this next episode and think about it all day long. So I stayed up and I watched episode 14 to kick off to season 2, and I was just like, no, I can't. I gotta know. I can't just wait like a sucker. I have it right here at my fingertips. I can push a button and know what's going to happen. Like shows like even like Gotham, where you're just like something happens and you're just like, what? A week? And this
That's
is what that
Gotham.
It's one of those moments.
Also want to point out it was a good thematic choice for that particular cliffhanger because one of the main characters of the show that we haven't mentioned, I think, at all is good old Pop. Good old
Yes.
Pop and his chocolate shop.
Chocolate
Literally
shop.
chocolate. Yeah, that restaurant, diner is used throughout the season always as it's kind of like a break away from the rest of the town. It's like a neutral space. Like people, even if they have problems with each other, there isn't even, it's always a place where like, I mean, there's one restaurant, so even if we hate each other, like we all have to get burgers at the same place. So let's just keep it cool while we're in here. But then to have such a, I don't even know if I remember any punches being thrown inside of Pops throughout the whole season. And then boom, at the end of this season, we have a violent, potentially lethal crime happening in Pops as well.
Well, some verbal punches thrown.
Yeah, that's what I like about that's what I like about that cliffhanger is that we've seen Pops as this like safe haven in this safe house, and then this like shakes it up. I mean, you were saying, Micah, that it's like the place that everybody goes. Like when they're looking for Jughead like has the train ticket or the bus ticket or whatever, and they're like, well, where would he go? And like, there's only one place open 24/7, so they go there, and there he is. So I think I agree with you that that's a really interesting plot point that they use to like totally shake things up.
And it's like you said, it's perfect description. It is their safe haven. Like, after the dance, when Betty and Veronica were making up, they were there, and they, put differences aside, and yes, the boys could join them. I feel like it's almost after major things. They're like, well, we're depressed and sad, let's go to Pops. Like, yeah.
Did it make you think of the Peach Pit?
Yes.
90210, I'm sorry.
Yes, a little bit. But really, is Pops the Peach Pit, or is Peach Pit Pops?
Yeah, that's true.
Right.
Sure. So we're going to go around, and I'd love it if you could rank your interest in the show on a scale of 1 to 5 stars. 1 is low, 5 is high.
Half stars are okay.
And do you want, like, justifications and explanations?
Yes.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
Rating?
You start, Micah.
That's nice. You can volunteer.
Okay. Right now, I'm going to put it at a 4 just because I don't think season 4 has started. I think season 3 is over, and I only saw partially because CW updated their app, and it super duper sucks, and I hate it. And CW, I'm coming for you.
Wow. I'll keep that in.
I fell off of the wagon, I think, midway through season 3, and I can't, in good conscience, as a TV podcast panelist, give 5 stars of interest to a show that I don't religiously stay caught up on. But I like it a lot. As far as like if I was going to recommend it to people, as I said, I've been met with some very animosity and some vitriolic reactions when I bring up the show. So while I love it and I would love to recommend it to many people, and I give it my 4 stars, that's kind of a rating badge that I wear on the inside of my jacket to protect from the angry world.
I would say I'm at like a 3 3/4.
Why must you do this to life?
Because I'm like a little more than a 3.5, but I'm not quite as solid in a 4 as Micah, and I think it's because I really have only watched one season. I think as I go on, I'll have a more solid answer, and I can knock it back to a half star. Somewhere I can make it a half star, but I'm just like kind of in between. Like I'm enjoying it. I don't think there's anything like horribly wrong with it, but I'm not like absolutely die hard in love with it.
I'm gonna say that I'm 4.5.
Okay.
Just because I love this show, and I'm so excited for the next season. But especially, I'm not gonna give anything. In season 3, my interest kind of fell because it turned into something that I didn't want it to turn into.
Okay.
But I'm still so excited for the next season.
Fair.
Like, I love this show, so I can't really not.
I really want to be a 5 because I have followed it from day one, but I'm right at the 4.5 for the same reasons. Like I'm caught up. Season 4 starts this month. I've seen like
It's Thursday.
Yes.
Yeah. Wednesday.
Yes.
Wednesday, yeah, the 9th.
So, like, I'm, like, ready to go. I've seen some, like, teaser trailers. We kind of talked about the promo I came in that I saw that made me cry. But season 3 took a really weird turn. Not giving anything away, but it just kind of left a weird taste in your mouth. And you're like, it jumps a lot. Like, there's moments where it's like, what? Like, do I need to take notes to know what's going on? But it is a show that I feel like if you give it the time and you love the Archie comics or you want to give, like, a darker show a try, I would suggest it to friends. I'm really bummed that I can't be like, I'm a solid 5, let's do this. Maybe season 4 will change that. Yeah. But as of right now, I'm at a 4.5.
I'm a hard 5.
Ooh.
Okay.
Hard 5. Bordering on 6.
That's not in the scale, Nate.
You said your scale can't confine the flow.
You can't contain my love for Riverdale. No, I don't know. Like, for all intents and purposes, I probably shouldn't be a fan, given my advanced age. But no, every episode I watch, I just grew to love it more and more. I love everything that happened in season 3. I thought was crazy and awesome. But I am in some of the boats as others, because when I say, like, oh man, have you watched Riverdale? That show is awesome. Like, my wife bailed. She was just like, this is too weird. Forget it. And I'm like, no, the weirdness is what's great. There's so much, they're doing the teen stuff that teen shows do, but then they have these elements in here that just bring something new and interesting, and it keeps me coming back. But yeah, like I said, I have Riverdale merch, and I am a huge nerd. I am very much looking forward to October 9th for when it comes out. Of course, I'm going to give it, I'll probably wait 3 weeks, so that way I can binge watch all 3 episodes. Boom, boom, boom. So I don't have to wait a whole week like a sucker. But
Gabby and Jessica will not be waiting.
No.
They're shaking their head.
I've waited too long for
Right.
that.
well, I said I probably will, but I think what'll end up happening.
Yeah.
It's okay, I'll message you and see if you waited the 3 weeks.
It's probably not going to happen. Is really the truth.
I would, since I've only seen season 1, I would give it a rating of 3.5 stars. 3.5 stars. Her rating didn't come with all the cheeky stuff I usually attach to the rating.
It's true.
So if I was characterizing this 3.5 stars, it would be between a place where I like the premise, but I can see some pitfalls, and another level, which is I like some stuff, I don't like some stuff. 3.5 reflects that I like more stuff than I don't like, and that I'm going to keep watching it. That would be my minimum I'm going to continue watching it rating. But there's still a lot of things that don't jive for me yet. That doesn't mean they wouldn't. I agree with the opinions that have been shared that the second half of season 1 is much stronger than the first half of season 1. And by the time I was really into it, that's when I started to like it more. So I'm hoping that momentum builds as I continue to watch.
Kylie has just stated my opinion.
Yeah.
I was going to say I'm a 3.5. I have not watched past season 1 either. I did that on purpose because I tend to get confused about what's going on in different seasons, and sometimes I say a thing and Kylie's like, that was the next season. And so I knew when I was moderating I needed to keep a straight head about me. I've seen certain things from season 2, but I haven't seen past then. So at this stage, I am going to give it a 3.5. And I'm going to seg into the next question, which a lot of you answered. Would you recommend this to other people, and will you continue to watch? I will continue to watch. I would recommend this show to a certain audience of people. Yeah. But I think you got to know who you're recommending it to. It's not The Office for me, which I recommend to everybody just in the world. It's just a more specific type of a show. Yeah. So some of you have already answered, but jump back in and let us know. Will you keep watching? Will you recommend?
I will. Piggybacking to
Jessica's kept watching.
I have kept watching.
As has Gabby.
What you said made total sense. That's why I had the Wikipedia up, because I was like, wait, did this happen in season 1? Or did this happen in season 2? And I was reading, I'm like, okay, I can talk about that right now.
Yes.
But I also agree with you. You suggest it to certain people. I don't suggest it to all my friends. But if I know your type, or I know that you like to fanboy over attractive men, be it not teenage because they're in their 20s, I feel really weird saying that. But in the show, they're teenagers. Or the Luke Perry's and the older Skeet Ulrich. If I know who I'm talking to, I'll be like, oh no, you need to give this show a try. I'm not going to go up to somebody who favors other shows that are not in that genre. But I think if you want something new, it's worth giving it a try, because it is something fresh, it is something new. It's not your everyday. When I think of carbon cut teen shows, I think of Gilmore Girls and One Tree Hill and the stereotypical teenage drama. This is something that's a step away from those and gives you something new and refreshing. So yes, I will keep watching, and I will suggest it.
Awesome.
Yeah, I will definitely keep watching. I love this show. I would recommend it, but I have people ask, like, if I'm, like, watching, like, my roommate last year, she started watching it, I can't stand it. Like, but I would definitely...
Is that why she's not your roommate this year? I can't live with someone who doesn't like Riverdale.
I am going to keep watching it. I'll probably start season 2 tonight while I'm writing a paper for school. So I am going to keep watching it. Like everybody else has said, it's not a show that I'm just going to recommend to everybody. It's kind of like basically all of the other shows I've been on a podcast for. I mean, Jane the Virgin's a little bit easier to recommend to more people, but this show is definitely one of those shows that I don't think I can just post on Facebook. Oh my god, everybody needs to watch this, because I don't think it is that.
I will for sure keep watching, no doubt. Generally when I latch onto something, like that's it. Like I saw back in the day a few episodes of Degrassi The Next Generation, so I was like, cool, I'm going to start this. And I went to the library and got Degrassi Junior High, because I'm a purist when it comes to canon, which actually was helpful if anyone wants to start the Degrassi journey. I recommend kicking it back to the 80s. One of my professors who recommended Twin Peaks, since we're kind of using this as like a sister show, and I mean, even the woman who plays Alice was on that show, he told me that like partway through one of like the first season, there's like a dream sequence. And if you make it through that, you'll be able to, you will vibe with the show. You'll be able to mesh with it. But if you can't make it through that, the show's not for you. I feel like a lot of people hit that, like, very early in this show, and that's why they don't like it, and I don't know specifically why. But just as a word of advice to my fellow panelists as you're continuing through, Season 3 is that dream sequence. Season 3, I think, is the loyalty tester, so don't feel too trepidatious, I think, going into Season 2. I think it's a very good continuation. I think Season 1 kind of set up what are going to be the Riverdale tropes, and Season 2 comes through with those as well. So I'm happy for you guys to experience it for the first time.
Yeah, I made it clear. I'll be watching. I'll be sticking to it, and like I said, I have given the recommendation. Some people come back and act like I'm crazy, and other people come back and they're like, oh, that was really good. And I'm like, yeah, how dare you even doubt me? I'm very excited for it. I think it's going to be fantastic. And I'll continue to watch right up to the end. And then I won't watch the last episode because I hate goodbyes.
Oh,
wow. All right.
I need the closure.
That's dedication.
I literally last summer watched the final episode of Monk because I was like, it's time now.
He gave it a few years.
Wow.
I've had time to prepare.
So yes, it's very 11 of me, but yes, I do not like goodbyes.
Well,
with television shows.
I was going to say, you're not going to like what's about to come next then. Is there anything else that anyone wants to mention that we haven't covered? Did we say it all?
I think we said it all.
I think we've literally covered every big plot thing in Season 1. I think that was all the big stuff, right down to the slut shaming and Dark Betty.
Oh, I have one. I did not like how short the shrift was with the whole Fred Hermione revamp relationship. I thought that was very abruptly ended. But
I just wanted to pretend that didn't happen.
Yeah, that would be nice.
It was upsetting.
I think they were trying to crib a 90210 vibe, and it just didn't work.
However, I do love that Betty's mom was almost like the mom to them, because at the movie, the drive-in, when she comes up to the window and she's like knocking, I don't approve of your adultery ways. Okay, Mrs. Cooper, have a good day.
That was, I think, another one of those little, random plot points that I was like, is this necessary?
They were going to go for something there, and then they felt that it got weird.
This doesn't feel right.
JK, never mind.
Yeah, that's all I have to say.
Yep.
Well, I think that might be it then, guys.
We did it.
Do you
We
think
did
so?
it. I do.
Well, I think if you're right,
Yeah.
what I'm going to do
Okay.
is thank Sarah for moderating this business, and also thank Jessica, Gabby, Emily, Micah, and Nate for joining us to talk about Riverdale Season 1, Now Never You Fear. There's more in this Riverdale catch-up miniseries, but before we get too far over there, we're going to roll the credits. Couch Potatoes Unite! Was produced by Back Pocket Productions, run by yours truly, the Chief Couch Potato, which is really another way of saying executively produced by me, Kylie Piette. My associate producers are Krista Pennington and Selene Rezmer. I edit this podcast, and our logo is by Rebecca Wallace. Our marketing graphic artist is Krista. Our theme song was written by Sarah Milbratz and sung by Sarah, Amy McDaniel, and Kelsey Rezmer. Kelsey played the keyboard, Ian McDonough played the bass, Christian Somerville played the guitar, and the whole kit and caboodle was engineered and produced by Kyle Aspinall and Christian. We hail from Grand Rapids, Michigan. Please, if you like what you hear, take the time to rate us on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, or Google Play, or wherever you find your podcasts. Give us stars, give us comments, give us reviews. Let us know how we're doing. Send us a message. We might just read it on the podcast. Tell us what you like, what you don't like, what we should keep, what we should toss. You know how it goes. And if you have suggestions on shows we might consider, contact us at our website, couchpotatoesunite.wordpress.com, where we have a guest book, by email at couchpotatoesunitepodcast@gmail.com, or via our social media, Facebook, Twitter at CPU Podcast, and Instagram at Couch Potatoes Unite. Though, of course, we add new and old shows to chat about around the water cooler all the time. We always have several more new episodes coming down the pike. Just listen to our intros, and if you miss old episodes or want to know in general what we cover, just find us. We are everywhere and searchable wherever you look for things on the internet. You can search for us, or you can subscribe on our website, our channels, our social media accounts. Stay up on our new events and episodes. Until the next time, seasons 1 through 3 of Riverdale are available to stream on Netflix, who currently has the CW contract, even if we don't have any contractual obligation to say that. Meanwhile, the 4th season premiered on Wednesday, October 9th, 2019 on the CW, and the last 5 aired episodes are always available to watch at the CW website or the CW app, which apparently Micah is not a fan of. In addition, our Riverdale series panel will next reconvene very shortly, in fact, to discuss Season 2 and the second part of our catch-up miniseries, and you won't want to miss that episode because, as I mentioned, surprises, well, that episode will have a doozy. As always, keep a weathered eye to CPU for all the deets. In the meantime, and until next episode, new episodes are published every Wednesday. Keep listening, keep watching, stay tuned.
Bye.